To the Austin Writers Roulette, happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers. Yeah. We're all here because our mothers, well, I guess our dads too, but we're celebrating Father's Day next month. So.
What day is it?
What date is what? Father's Day?
Yeah.
It's the third Sunday of June. But our show is the second Sunday of June, so you could still make it. Look at you, always making excuses. Anyway. So, the theme of our show is othering and mothering, and we have quite a slate that has interpreted that theme. And yes, if you think you're feeling a little warm, just imagine if you were wearing a hat right now. Yeah. So I am either representing Amelia Earhart or Bessie Coleman. Most people can tell I'm an aviator. And our first roulette is actually navigating through his childhood stuff, or things I should say, and he's paying tribute to his mother by providing a narrative to the treasures preserved in her button jar. Please welcome Larry Mayfield.
This one is for my mother who passed away in December. This is called My Mother's Button Jar. Hope you can see some of these things, if not. Faced against the window pane, my breath fogs up the view of a dismal, cold, dreary day outside. As I pull away, a watery imprint of my nose and lips make for a brief comical window picture before the condensation starts to distort and the droplets run down to the bottom of the window frame. It looks like another inside day for me. All the other kids my age would have to stay inside too, with nothing to do and no one to play with. It's too cold to go outside, all the moms would be saying as they caught up in the tiny chores. If it would just snow, I was wishing, maybe then my friends and I could go outside and be allowed to build a snowman. Mom knew her youngest son was born, and she appeared in the living room with a remedy. It was a gallon-sized, wide-mouthed jar filled with small remnants of the past. We called it the button jar. It had a Morton Smalley's lid that advertised as deliciously good. Inside the jar was a collection that could turn an otherwise lonely day into a trip through a family's past. Mom placed the jar in front of me on the oval rim-sized braided rug. She handed me a cup of hot chocolate to sip on as I passed the time looking at the jar's contents. It was a reliving of the past, those memories within the button jar. The button jar, it was more than just buttons. It was all of those items within a family that sometimes end up in drawers or vases here and there about the house. I could remember scattering the varied items on that braided rug with my pint-sized hands. And on those cold days, and this would start a mind trip into my family's history. Each member was represented within its contents. After many years had passed, and I was a middle-aged man, my mother came into her living room one day with the button jar. Generations had come to pass, and Mom was the oldest living member of my family, having outlived my grandparents and all the aunts and uncles. Would you like to have the button jar? She handed the glass container to me. Thankful eyes flickered. She knew how sentimental I was about family. It would be one of my most meaningful items to possess, treasures within a treasure, as it became the centerpiece on top of my bookshelf. And now on cold days, I can look at the button jar and remember. There was my brother's knife. I would inquisitively pick it up, opening and closing the blade a few times. Even though his old knife became my possession as an adult, I would always call it my brother's knife. And there was my sister's skate key, you know, the old style of roller skates that clamped on hard-soled shoes with an odd-shaped adjustment key to make the skate fit all sizes. It would always be my sister's skate key. Small and insignificant kids' toys would represent me in the button jar's contents. There was a metal Charlie Chaplin toy and a glow-in-the-dark miniature light bulb. I can still remember charging the toy light by holding it under a lamp-lit bulb while Mom would warm up my favorite wool blanket, holding it near the Dearborn heater at bedtime, her warming remedy for chilly days. Mom hurriedly would wrap my cold feet in the heated blanket as I tucked my head under the covers to capture by eye the glow-in-the-dark bulb until it ran out of glow. Later, as a divorced adult, I would toss my wedding ring into the button jar when it also ran out of glow. My dad was represented in the button jar with nails and nuts and bolts that demonstrated how he was a hard-working backbone of the family. And there was Mom's favorite present he had given her before they were married, his first gift. It was a unique iron-looking rock with irregular recessed square shapes pitting its surface. He found the rock while they were walking through a sandfield near Salem, Texas, when they were courting. To Mom, it would always be Dad's rock, even though he gave it to her. Mom was the bulk of the jar. She would rip buttons off every shirt and coat as the clothes wore out and save the buttons for another day. Living through the Great Depression, she knew hard times and how there could always be a new life for an old button. But looking deeper into the obvious real-world items, I uncovered what really represented my mom. The buttons epitomized how she kept us mended. One of her thimbles was in the jar ready to be called upon. Mom would pick up a thimble and with needle and thread apply a button where needed. She only asked for our happiness in return. In years to come, there would be a day when a near fatal stroke would take her mobility, and I would gladly assume the caregiving role she had earlier maintained for her 3 children. Although she never really gave up motherly instincts, caring, loving, still treating me as a little kid. When Mom gave me the button jar that day, many years ago, I noticed there was a small amount of space remaining at the top, symbolizing she had lived a full life and had a little room left. The button jar was almost full. When the thought occurred, she handed the jar to me. I looked over at her and gave her a big hug. I love you, Mom. The button jar will always be Mom's button jar.